Greetings. I wanted to talk about how to feel empowered while being locked down. Sometimes it can feel like someone has taken your rights away. And though I think there's a good purpose, I think it's not necessarily the purpose that we're being told that it is by a certain stream of content, information. Though I do believe the truth is out there and you can find it. And so that stream that I'm speaking of gives me another reason to feel empowered. But the number one way to feel empowered while being locked down, in my opinion, is that no one's locked me down. No one's locked me down. Actually, I've been asking the universe for a very long time to just give me some time to be, and to be connected, and to connect with people more deeply, and for the truth to come out, so to speak. Like, I've been asking for this. I've been here waiting, awaiting this transition from the old world. And I think many of you also have called this in. And so when we call something in, like pause, like rejuvenation, like worldwide waking up, just like the statement, you can know the why but not the how when you're manifesting. We can ask for something but we don't understand the how. We don't think about it often. And then when it shows up personally for us, we're all a lot of times like, no, not like that. That is totally not how I asked to learn unconditional love. Like, I did not ask for a relationship to come and be super judgmental of me. But what comes out of that is what we asked for, to learn unconditional love. Sometimes it's the lack of something that teaches us something the best. Or the situation becomes the catalyzer, right? It becomes the way we find the thing we're asking for. So right now, what's going on globally and being locked down, I invite you to take the stance that, okay, I asked for the world to transform, and this is what it looks like while it's transforming. And because I know that I'm tuned in, tapped in to the power that is within me, and I know that Source and I are connected. And because my desires wish to see this thing, that is God speaking through me, that is the universe speaking through me, now moving with the power of manifestation to arrange things so as to align with my deepest desire, to experience an elevated life, more connected life, a less slavery-filling life. And so many of us wish this at once that we have it, where it's coming. It's just started, it's like, can't always see it right at the beginning. Excuse me. You can't always see it right at the beginning. I need a drink of water. So, I'm empowered because I'm a co-creator in this, for my own purposes as well, and because I also believe that it's time that everyone come together. I would like to see a world of empowered people. And my whole life, this is the first time that I actually feel like I can say the world is being empowered right now. This is an empowerment ceremony. This is exactly how an empowerment ceremony looks. At first, it's very resistant, even ignoring that it would even need to take place. Fighting against it, holding on to the old. Finally starting to give in, reluctantly. Then looking for new insights in order to support this surrender. So it's actually an inward journey now. It goes from outward to inward, until we can drop into the place where this is exactly what we called for. and we recognize that it came from us. So that is my invitation with this reality right now, to recognize that it came from you. And a nice outward explanation is, if it came from you, then someone's going to have to play out the rearrangement order that you had in mind when you were asking for a better world. And I know I personally have actually had this conversation with myself a lot, and I don't know if you have, but I've asked myself, if I was the president, how would I deal with the current problems? And I have thought I would gather up all the different current structures, and I would look at what they're doing, and I would say, now we're going to do it like this. And I would call in the specialists of that particular way of transforming a structure so that it doesn't go for total naught, like there's a purpose behind it, but it shifts to align with a higher purpose. And so if you find something that looks like it could be that happening, and that's your idea, or however you get there, to me, I was like, oh, actually, I see a storyline, a narrative that is following my own vision pretty closely. And this is crazy, but I'll tell you, but 20 years ago, actually 2003, so that's 17 years ago. That's funny, just realized that. 17 years ago, I had a Kundalini Yoga teacher, a master tantric teacher that I met in India. He was the first person I met on the train on the way from Bombay to Goa. So it felt like divine providence. We're in the same boxcar with his 3 young children, and he talked the entire time. He was an Italian man. Talked all the time, and I learned he taught Tai Chi and Kundalini Yoga, and decided that we were going to house up next to them and create a little community. So every day he was teaching Tai Chi or Kundalini Yoga, and then all the family would cook dinner together and had Christmas for the kids and everything because their mom wasn't there. And it was really lovely. But during that time, at night, around the fire, this teacher would, I thought, muse. I thought he was musing. And he said some pretty interesting things, but he said one thing that always stuck with me. He said it would have to be a plan that was thought out a long time. And there'd have to be key people in every system in place so that all at the same time on cue, and he said this, they would all engage in this plan and take over everything at once. He's like, it would be a brilliant plan. It would take a long time in planning, but it could happen. Everybody would have to be synced up. And he would tell this story over and over, and I thought, this was so interesting. And here's the other interesting thing for those of you who know the story, because I'm still blown away that he said this. And I sometimes wonder if he knew back then something. When I think of the story, but he used to say, what if there was an island, like a fantasy island that was privately owned, that people could just go and live out their most twisted, taboo fantasies. And he didn't say much more about it than that, but he used to say that. And I thought, what a strange thing to just bring up. And yeah, what an interesting thing. And he was musing about whether or not that would, be able to exist. And then for those of you who know about Epstein's Island and the current movement that's going on, like with Q and so forth, I suddenly am like, I was told about this 20 years ago, or 17 years ago. Almost like somebody was letting me know that when I saw the scenario that's going on, that I would know that it was right. I didn't mean to take this video here, but it just went here, and I felt like I need to share that. But so, seeing a scenario that matches something that I think is very wise and possible and that I would choose to do, I feel like that's a narrative I can support and that supports me, so it's empowered. So in that case, I think, and those of you know the scenario of right now, all those who've been involved in deep state and cabal and doing things on the planet that are not in the interest of the human species, or against the human species. It is like a virus or a parasite. So in the same way that we would want to bring the body back into balance, there is this movement to bring society back into balance. And strangely enough, it's by this very long, well thought out plan that's taking place, just like my teacher said all those years ago. So it's very interesting to me. So in that way, I can be like, okay, I'll stay in so that this scenario can play out, and I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'm going to observe and make sure that I'm seeing things moving and watch this thing play out. I'm happy to step back and become empowered in my own way and say, I also created this. So that's the paradox that's constantly existing, is two seemingly opposing ideas that coexist. So I can say this is both what I called in and a brilliant plan taking place that I too would do had I those resources. So both of those together, I'm sharing with you, is a possible idea of how to feel empowered during a lockdown. And if you don't like my stories, then you're free to make your own story. Just make sure that it's an empowering one, because your future's still unwritten.